limiting ownership of mass media to Filipinos, it enjoys the overwhelming presumption of constitutionality, plus the fact that it was rendered by the body with legal jurisdiction to decide on these matters, it enjoys the overwhelming presumption of validity. Questions?
Laila Salaveria?
What's happening with Rappler, sir? Isn't this part of a pattern? Because the president has complained about several organizations in the past, and every time he complains about an organization, may government that's happening to that organization.
I think that's a great disservice to the chair of the SEC. In the legal profession, if you respect Maria Ressa in the journalism profession, Chair Herbosa enjoys the same kind of respect amongst lawyers. That's really something that lawyers will find difficult to accept, that Chair Herbosa is a person who can be influenced to making a decision that is contrary to law. Chair Herbosa simply is not capable of that.
But sir, this move was prompted by a letter from the Office of the Solicitor General.
Well, according to the decision itself, they were looking into the matter already before the Solicitor General requested the Commission to look into this matter. Moreover, this was in the overall context of the SEC coming up with rulings interpreting our rules on ownership. If you will remember, PLDT had the same kind of controversy on its preferred rights. So it just so happened that at the time this decision was rendered by the SEC, there were all those similar issues that the SEC decided upon, which has since been ruled upon also by the Supreme Court.
But sir, the president also earlier threatened the franchise of a TV station after he complained about its coverage. So you don't think it has any effect on the press freedom, the environment that the media operates in?
That's what I'm saying. It was unfair of Maria Ressa to say that they're victims of an attack on press freedom, because they're not. She defies this Philippine depositary receipt. No one told her to structure in this manner. She probably had more faith in her lawyers than she should have, but no one is exempt from complying with the Constitution and the laws of the land, particularly where you're talking of a media outfit in the exercise of a public trust, criticizing government officials for violating the Constitution and the laws of the land. I would hope that they would be first and foremost compliant with all constitutional and legal requirements themselves.
But if you put it in the context of the president complaining about certain media agencies and threatening them, you don't think this is...
If the president wanted to do that, he could have just sent armed forces to their offices and padlocked them, which has been done by other regimes. The president has never done that. The president has never done that.
Is that the only way to shutter a media agency?
Well, all I'm saying is, in this instance, the president had nothing to do with it. It's by individuals who were not his appointees. He could not control the majority of the commissioners and the chairperson of the SEC itself. And of course, you don't know about the credentials of Chairperson Tess Herbosa, but I'm reiterating it. It is unfair to her to think that she was acting merely as a lackey of the president. She will never do that.
So, sir, is it just a coincidence that the president had singled out Rappler for criticism earlier?
Let me put it this way. No one is exempt from complying with the Constitution and the laws of the land. Even Rappler, even the media must comply with it.
Okay, Pia? So, sir, the president's speech and the president mentioning Rappler in the SONA had nothing, it had no effect whatsoever on this case.
No, because this was a legal decision based on existing jurisprudence and based on interpretation of the Constitution made by an independent body that the president does not control.
Sir, how about the speed in which this case progressed? It was resolved in 5 months when usually it takes a year. They skipped certain processes. And also there are some cases when in similar situations, the SEC just requires the company to strike down that part of the contract instead of completely revoking their registration. How would you then explain this?
Pia, I think the SEC is looked upon as one of the most efficient agencies of government. Chairman Herbosa is renowned and respected for the dedication to the rule of law and for her consistent stand against corruption in government as well.
Sir, how about the fact that the papers were accepted by the SEC in 2015, but under a new administration, it has been looked upon unfavorably? What's the missing link
let's
here?
put it this way. They will accept it, but if there is, in fact, a controversy on ownership, they have to rule on it. It would be dereliction of duty on their part if they did not rule on a pending issue before them.
Okay, Joseph Morong?
First off, sir, on the legality, is it the issue of PDRs per se, or the one that you mentioned kanina na condition in the PDR particular to Omidyar?
Well, the decision was the PDR was part of an elaborate scheme to circumvent the constitutional prohibition on foreign ownership of media, because through the PDR, and Rappler was not the only one that has issued PDRs. No, others have, but this is unusual because this PDR gave negative control to the foreign investor, in the sense that 2/3 of the PDR holders needed to consent before they could amend the articles and bylaws of Rappler. And kanina nga, sinabi ko, Filipino corporations that intend to sell all or substantially all of their assets need to have 2/3 vote of all stockholders. No? So it's similar to that kind of a control exercised by stockholders. So that's why the court said this is a circumvention of the prohibition, even if without a doubt the shareholders are Filipinos. By entering into this kind of an agreement, they have given control to a foreign entity.
Okay, follow up?
And that is relevant because vis-a-vis the 100% media ownership provision in the Constitution.
Because the intent behind that is so that no foreigner can control any media business in the Philippines.
Do you think that the SEC was a little more liberal, no pun intended, in the interpretation of what control is?
No, this is according to an established jurisprudence. No, I have the name of the jurisprudence. I was going to give you copies of this jurisprudence. No, but let me see. But there is
Tobacco ba
established
yan?
jurisprudence here already, and it is the case of Gamboa.
Versus?
This is the case of Gamboa. No, well, it's Gamboa ruling. No, I don't have the exact
Later na lang.
citation. Yes.
How does the president or the palace describe Rappler's reporting on the administration?
What I can say is that the president found it unfair for Maria Ressa to claim violation of freedom of the press when, according to him, Rappler has been very active criticizing individuals for violating the Constitution and the laws of the lands, and it turns out it is by itself violating the Constitution. In law, we have a saying, one should come to court with clean hands. Because the media industry is a public trust, one should exercise, I guess, privileges out of this public trust also with clean hands. Before you criticize others, look into the mirror. Look at yourself first.
You've talked to the president about this?
Yes,
When was this?
last night.
Last night. And what was his sentiment?
Well, he just did not like the fact that Rappler was saying this is a result of the president's dislike for Rappler. Of course not. He had nothing to do with this decision. He was not even aware that there was this decision coming up.
Okay, RJ? Follow up? Joseph?
Sir, still on Rappler, is it possible that this will create a domino effect where other media companies would be dragged into the same investigation due to PDR issuances?
Well, I can confidently say that other online news agencies like Vera Files, Minda News, don't have PDRs. I can confidently say not only don't they have PDRs, they don't have PDRs with foreign entities given the power of negative control when it comes to amending their articles and bylaws.
Okay, Lanesca, follow up? Microphone?
Morning, sir. The President last year issued Memorandum Order 16 asking NEDA to lift foreign investment limits and support legislative initiatives that will bring about these changes, changing this 40% limitation provided by our Constitution. This is to raise the level of our competitiveness and to foster economic growth. according to the president. And yet, the chief government lawyer, Solicitor General Calida, is prosecuting a media entity for supposed violation of the 40%. So, is there, I see a disconnect there, and how can the Solicitor General prosecute Rappler or any other media entity for that matter for alleged violation of the 40% when he has issued a memorandum for liberalization of that 40%? What is the president's stand really?
Let me start by saying, with all due respect, that your questions are misleading. Number one, the Solicitor General has not said he will prosecute anyone yet. It is the SEC that submitted its decision to the DOJ for its consideration. Now, the conclusion that can be derived is possibly because the ruling of the SEC said that there was a violation of the anti-dummy law, that perhaps, but it has not been decided upon by the DOJ, that there may be an investigation for a possible violation of the anti-dummy law. Second, please don't talk about a negative list, because a negative list does not include media ownership. The 60-40 rule is not applicable here because media entities are supposed to be 100% owned by Filipinos or Filipino corporations.
Sir, follow up. Yeah, sir, I mean, the president what is the president's stand? Is he for lifting that 40% for for public utilities or otherwise?
Again, that's misleading because the president has not made any stand on media companies being required by the Constitution to be owned by 100% Filipinos. That's not covered by the negative list because it's an absolute rule that it can only be owned by Filipinos or Filipino corporations and associations.
Ano nga, sir, ang posisyon ni Presidente? Because per niya already said,
Wala pong posisyon ng Presidente pagdating sa media ownership. Hindi po siya kasama sa negative list, dun sa listahan na pinapalift from the negative list. I think I distributed copies of that list about a month ago. Hindi po kasama doon ng media companies.
Sir, regardless nga po dun sa negative list, under the Constitution, sir.
It depends kasi. Merong 60-40 rule which is applied to everyone,
Yes,
including
so-
retail trade. Pero may special rule pagdating sa media, 100%.
So is the
hindi
president
siya
also-
kasama, hindi siya kasama dun sa proposal ni Presidente na i-relax. Okay? In other words, he is still for retention of the 100% rule as far as media ownership is concerned.
Okay, he is for 100 pa rin.
Ay,
For
nandiyan
mass
na
media.
kasi hindi nga po pwede siyang, yung sinasabi mo kasi,
Kahit-
yung may mga leeways ang executive.
Sir, but
Oo.
he is pushing for the amendment of the Constitution eh. So, kahit i-amend yung Constitution, gusto niya 100% pa rin. Yung sa
Pagdating
mass
sa
media.
media, hindi naman siya kasama, hindi siya priority na ma-liberalize. Do we really need foreign investors for media? Eh ngayon nga, 100% we have a thriving media business. Ito ba yung area na kinakailangan natin ng foreign investors? Hindi. Diba?
Okay, thank you, Lanesca.